So you found the skeleton. How would you calculate the depth? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
Hey there YouTube, the Dapper Dinosaur here. This is now attempt number 3 to record this tutorial because, well, quite frankly, I keep having things like computer crashes and whatnot. This is going to be a tutorial on how to take a material and how to make a material in Cycles that will allow you to make something look like a statue that's heavily corroded without it, basically driving you insane. And having to do all sorts of texture painting and whatnot. The first thing I'm going to do is just fix this tie because it's off. Basically, I'm just going to delete this bit. Set to go from 80 to 91. That's fine. Whatever. Bake it. Should get it to be normal. All right. So we're not going to do this to the tie, but what we are going to do is we're going to go here. Going to get rid of this. And make a new material, and we're going to call it bronze. Okay? We're going to take these teeth, we're going to switch them to bronze. I'm going to select the eye, I'm going to have to do it over here in the outliner, just I don't want to try to click through. We're going to also switch this to bronze. Red, bronze. Okay, so we're going to switch this to a shader editor. Shader. Okay, and what we're going to need first is we're going to need 3 principal BSDFs. 1, 2. We're actually going to put it. So our first principal BSDF is going to be dirt. It's going to be pretty simple. High roughness, 0 metallic. We're going to make it brown. Now, I don't know if you know this about brown, but brown is just low saturation, low value orange. There you go. Want to know how to make brown? That's how. Now, here's a tip. If you're ever commissioning art and you tell your artist you want something to look more brown and they decide to slap you in the face, you deserve it. Because more brown isn't a thing, and that's why. Be specific. Tell them lower saturation, lower value, darker, make it more colorful, increase the value, something like that. I've had that happen with people commissioning me. It's a really big pain in the butt. Anyway, this is going to be Verdigris. And Verdigris, I just looked up a hex code for, just to make it easy. Hex codes are just a way to encode color in a series of hex digits. Hex is base 16, so it goes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, then ABC all the way until you get to 15, then it starts back over. So a good hex code for Verdigris is 43B. That's the number 11. And then 3AE. There you go, it's a good Verdigris color. And I found a pretty good bronze color that I liked earlier when I was trying this before. So that is going to be P08D57. Okay, and go. So, and for this one, we're going to make it metallic. We're going to put the roughness down. We're also going to put the roughness up on this guy. Go switch over to look dev mode. Okay, so one thing I need to do is I need to bring in my image texture for the normal for this. It won't work otherwise, and because this model depends on that normal texture to get all of the details in there. So we're going to go texture, image texture. I already have this loaded in. So this is my Dapperosaurus.tiff. For my texture for this, I need to actually leave this as a color texture. In most normal maps, you would change this to non-color. Mine's a bit weird because of the way I made it. I baked it out with an earlier version of Blender, and yeah, for weird technical reasons that I don't fully understand and that also don't really matter, that's just how I have to do. I'm gonna grab this normal value for all of these. There you go. And as you can see, that's just giving me that little bit of shading that we're used to seeing. Okay, so here's where the magic happens. We have to switch over to Cycles. I have this set to be in Cycles. I'm going to put this film down here to transparent, just so it's a little easier to isolate out the dinosaur. Okay, so there's 2 sort of magic nodes that we're going to use here. First one is Bevel. So hit F3, type in Bevel. I'm using Node Wrangler so I can shift control left click to get this. And so what this is basically the normals on the object, but sort of like fuzzy. So if I add in a texture coordinate node here, right? And I click through, that's Shift Control left click twice to move down. You can see that this is also giving me the same kind of thing, right? So the colors are changing based on the facing of these normals in world space. And if I go here, see it's basically the same thing, except it's fuzzy. We have this radius where we can increase the level of fuzziness. It's like crazy. The default is 0.05, which is actually, you know what? I'm probably gonna up it. I'm gonna put it to 0.075. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna subtract the normal from the texture coordinate from the bevel. I'm gonna show you what that's gonna look like. So we're gonna go to converter, math. It's here. Subtract. Put the normal through here. And there you go. Done that. Now, the reason you're seeing all these weird lines here is because this is a fairly low polygon version of this. If I go back to LookDev, which is for some reason using normal or bevel now, which I'm thinking it couldn't, but hey, whatever, that's great. As far as I know, it still can't use the ambient occlusion, which is the other one we're going to use. But yeah, if I go to tab here and go to edit mode, you can see I do not have that much geometry on this model. This model is heavily dependent on texture-based displacement to make it look as fancy as it normally does. But that'll work because this is based on the actual, that's actually based on the actual, what do you call it? Geometry. So the final geometry is what matters. Now this looks pretty good. It's detecting my edges reasonably well. But one of the problems is it's detecting concave edges just as well as it is detecting convex edges. I really only wanted to detect concave. Because, you know, like statues get worn out where they point out and not where they point in. Now, some Blender users might say, well, why don't you use pointiness? And here's why. Pointiness sucks. Let me show you pointiness. So this is going to be a geometry thing, right? Okay. Yep. All right, so I want this to go to pointiness. Oh, goodness. There it is, pointiness. Okay, what is this? This is garbage. What are you going to do? You're going to put in a converter math node, set it to what, power, and then keep increasing it until, well, now I'm losing all the white data. See, this is just easier. Subtract the two, you get this. It's going to be fine. We're going to add in an ambient occlusion map, or, well, an ambient occlusion node. So we're just going to type in ambient occlusion. Okay. So if I show you what this is doing here, you can see it's making it darker where there's where it's basically close to geometry. So in the crevices. Well, how do we make that stronger? Well, you could just add a color ramp, but that's kind of messy. Better way to do it is get another math node, set it to power, so it's multiplying itself by itself, and I'm going to set this to about 12. And that's been giving me relatively decent results in the past, previous times I've tried this. So the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to multiply these two math nodes together. So converter, math, grab that here, there, set it to multiply. Okay. Now, I'm going to add in, we are actually going to use a color ramp because I want to significantly increase that contrast and also bring up more white. Okay. So actually, I'm going to bring this to just a touch, right? Right in here. Okay. How do I use this? Well, here's how. This is going to be the factor for a mix shader between these two. So wherever it's black, it's going to use bronze. And, no, sorry, wherever it's white, it's going to use the bronze. It's going to be on the bottom. And wherever it's black, it's going to use this Verdigris color. So I'm going to put in a shader, mix shader, here, this in here, here, this, and then take this and put it into the factor. Okay, so one of the things you'll notice is here where we're most pointy, getting the bronze color shining through. Where we're least pointy, we're getting verdigris. Now this is going to look better once I actually do the final render, because again, displacement map is going to make it much higher. The subdivisions are going to make it much higher poly, and displacement map is going to make the surface geometry much more complicated. But you can see it's already working with the normal map. And to enhance that, we're actually going to put this normal map, shove it into this ambient occlusion. So that's going to make it actually work even a bit better, because that's going to take into account the normals on the ambient occlusion. Okay, but how are we going to mix this guy in? Well, we're going to take another guy here, and just for now, we're going to turn this all the way down. Actually, we're going to turn it all the way down. Okay, so down here just. So we're going to get another version of this ambient occlusion. So basically, just going to use this, bring this in here, but oh wait, I guess we need to swap those. Sorry, I can't keep track of this. Anyway, but I'm going to use another color ramp to restrict this right here, pull this down, so we get a lot less dirt. This is going to be places where dirt would normally accumulate, right? Okay, that's it. That's the whole thing. So we're going to take the normal, subtract it from the normal, take the bevel, normal into this normal, subtracting those two. We're multiplying it with the output of an ambient occlusion set to a power of 12. Then we have a color ramp to just up that contrast. Same thing with the dirt map, except we only use the ambient occlusion because we don't actually need the pointiness because it's not really helping. And by pointiness, I mean this bevel. Okay. Now, I'm going to go to look dev. Here doesn't, fry. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to go to solid mode. I don't even care. We're going to turn the room on. Where'd the room go? Here's the room in my outliner. Okay. And now I'm going to see you on the other side of a rendered image. And this is going to look like a bronze statue that's been worn and sitting outside in the grime and the wind and the dirt. Here we go. All right, so we have now finished the render. You will already have seen this render because of how I'm going to edit it and because of my thumbnail. So you already know. Now, I'm going to point out I do some post stuff. I do some compositing in Blender. So like these lens flares, you're going to have to figure out how to do that on your own. There's additional ambient occlusion that I add in, especially here, but you can also see it glasses where you can actually see it here. You can also see this is all dirt because dirt would have come in here and accumulated and not come off. But yeah, so you can see that where there is the most sort of pokey outiness, you get the bronze coming through. You can see it on these striations. You see bronze coming through on the tips of these scutes here. These top scales, bronze, where there's a sort of a convex line going here for folds of skin. But then where there's the deepest crevices, we're getting dirt towards the bottom. And that's because the ambient occlusion node right here, you can switch it to local only, which means it won't take into account ambient occlusion from any other objects. But if the idea is supposed to be that the statue is in a particular environment that's in the scene that you're placing it in, you actually want it to have local only unchecked. I don't use inside because I don't care about the inside model. If you're trying to do something where you faces, you can try messing with that. I never have. Don't worry about it. But yeah, the ambient occlusion node works pretty well right out of the box. So you can see that when I come back here. So yeah, overall, this looks like a heavily verdigris bronze statue where, the verdigris is rubbed off. The wind or grit will sort of strip the verdigris off, or where just hands will, someone's touching the statue. And yeah, overall, I'm pretty happy with this. It definitely avoids the problems that you get with most Blender tutorials that have you use the Bevel detect node, or the Bevel node as it's properly called. I think of it as different things, but the Bevel node is normally that would give you bronze look in creases right here. Like we can see where the jaw connects to the neck, and there's this concave area. Mine is giving us a little line of dirt and no metal, and that is the key to using ambient occlusion node. Use ambient occlusion nodes to your benefit. Now, one thing is, this is a really intensive thing. This scene normally takes me about 4 minutes to render on Blender. less if I render it with Sheepit. It usually takes me about 2 minutes on Sheepit. But you're seeing here, it's taking me 6.5 minutes. That's because both the ambient occlusion and the bevel nodes are really resource intensive for you. My recommendation is, if you want to actually use this in production, generate maps from this. So use it to figure out, okay, what's my metallicity going to be? What's my color going to be? What is all these things, right? And then just bake them out as like a diffuse map, a normal map, or you should already have a normal map done, but a diffuse map, a metalness map, and probably a what do you call it? A roughness map. Now, it's actually pretty easy to do those things. Real quick tutorial. All you would have to do, say, to make this a diffuse color map is change all these to emission shaders with the same colors, and then just bake out the emission map. You can do like combined maps or whatever, but who cares? Just don't. Then change all these to emission shaders with the same value as the roughness value, bake it out as an emission map. Now you have that. Then change it to emission shaders with the same metallic numbers, bake that out. Then you have a metallic map. There you go. You've got the 3 maps that you need. You should already have had a normal map if you need to use one like I do. And that's problem solved. Then Blender can just take those maps at whatever resolution you want, and because this is procedural, you're only limited by the resolution of any maps that you're using to generate this. So I would be limited by the resolution of my normal map and my displaced map. But if you're using an object that doesn't already have those, and you're going to be downscaling it later, then you won't have this problem. But yeah, because it's procedural, as long as you have a high poly mesh, it'll come with just as much definition and detail as your poly mesh does, and you can set it to any arbitrarily high resolution. You can downscale from there if you need to. It'll be a much faster way to get this result after you set it up in the first place. But this is how you set it up procedurally right there. So just to sum up my 3D viewport. First, texture coordinate, put the normal through a bevel node and a subtract node, and then put the output of the normal node with the bevel node, set the radius, whatever you think is going to look good. Multiply it, have a multiply node, then add an ambient occlusion node, make sure you have your normal here. If you have a normal map, if you don't have a normal map, it won't matter, it'll just use whatever geometry there is, so you don't have to put anything in the socket. I like to, this number here, 12, don't take that as gospel, you're going to have to play around with it. But make sure you use power, don't use multiply, don't use subtract, don't use add, use power. I don't want to go through all the math, but trust me, that's how the math works. Shove both of those results through color ramps to your liking. Then use this right here, go to this multiply node, go between the edge color and the base color, so this is my edge color here. And if you want to do the dirt map, that's where this bevel map comes in, and this guy, or not bevel map, sorry, this color ramp comes in, and this extra BSDF. If you skip on this, it'll look very clean. That might look good. There you go. For instance, if you're doing something like maybe a weapon or something that people are handling and cleaning, but it's still getting edge wear, you might use something like this. So like if it were a bronze sword, I might not have a dirt map because people are probably getting clean regularly, but there's still going to be verdigris build up on it. Or you could also go between like a high roughness metal and a low roughness metal on the edge. So the edge is being sharpened on, say, a blade or something, but the flat surfaces really aren't getting that much attention, so they get scuffed up a little bit, so they get lower roughness. And then of course I still recommend baking out actual texture for your final version, because otherwise it's going to be murder on your computer. Anyway, here again is our final render in full screen glory. I'm the Dapper Dinosaur. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please subscribe. I do not upload Blender tutorials regularly, but they do happen. I also do gaming on this channel. Occasionally there's literature readings. I don't know. It's almost 5 a.m. and I haven't slept a wink. I'm just kind of not sure what's going on right now. So I'm just going to stop this recording. Bye.